So this happened today, Sarah. This happened this week to, of course, ring in the first session of voluntary organized team activities. It's DeAndre Hopkins in purple and black. Sure, there are no pads. They aren't running contact drills. They're doing some drills. There is some contact. But DeAndre Hopkins, Sarah, has made it clear on the other side of 30 in year one with Baltimore that he is going to be present. And there he is. And here is some film work, catching some footballs, getting a little bit of drills off the line, showing some one-on-one work. I think that was Greg Lewis, right?
Yep.
One of the wide receiver coaches out there. But there he is, rocking number 10. And like you said earlier on in the show, it is kind of this moment where it's like, oh, yeah, D-Hop's a Raven. Yes, he is indeed.
And it's insane. It's insane. No, it's nice to see. Let me see if they show that release again. Yeah. Yeah, he's never even in his younger years was like the speediest guy in the world, but he does know how to get open. He knows how to get off the blocks and he knows how to get open. And so that's perfect for a number 3 wide receiver. I know the rest of the national media keep playing him up to be like he's like the new number 2 or something like that, or maybe even number 1 in some cases, but that is not what he's brought here to do. He's obviously brought here to help on third downs when you need to move the sticks, when you're not in like a 3rd and 2 kind of situation where you either want Derrick Henry or Lamar kind of running the ball there, or even Justice Hill. It's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. And now you've got Bateman and you've got Zay and you've got Hopkins and Likely and whoever else. And that's what the Ravens need him to do. And I think that is something he can do. I'm not predicting any sort of massive production, but if he can become that chain mover and a guy in crunch time, then he will have served the exact purpose that the Ravens needed.
Chain mover, guy in crunch time that's going to answer the bell, get you that 50-50 ball that Lamar throws up there in a crucial situation, right? Bring a certain level of savvy, bring that OBJ kind of mentorship to what's an otherwise young and inexperienced wide receiver room. And everything else outside of those things is gravy, as we've kind of mentioned a couple times this offseason. Ryan Clark, former Steeler, now ESPN analyst. Boy, has he been in the news lately, Sarah. There's been plenty of RC on my X timeline in recent weeks. But DeAndre caught a little bit of a stray in one of his recent clips on ESPN, and it had nothing to do, the topic itself, with DeAndre Hopkins. It had everything to do with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen being pinned up against one another. It's the purpose of debate here on ESPN, this clip that we're about to share with you. It goes from essentially, will Josh or Lamar get it done? Will Lamar get it done right now? And RC goes on a little bit of a tangent here, and you'll see how DeAndre catches a little bit of shade towards the end of this clip. Listen to this.
Or Josh Allen. And it's because I've seen it, Greeny. I've seen Josh Allen stand on the field with the greatest player in the world right now and go toe-to-toe with him. I saw Josh Allen give this team a chance on a pass to Dalton Kincaid, falling backwards, throwing off of his back foot, and give them an opportunity to win that game, and he just dropped the football. Josh Allen has shown us that he can do everything you need to do on the big stage. Lamar Jackson has not. Do I believe Lamar Jackson has the potential? Does Lamar Jackson have it in him? Absolutely. He's one of the greatest players I've ever seen, but I haven't seen it the way I've seen it with Josh Allen. And to be honest with you, if I'm going to trust any guy in the playoffs, it's actually Joe Burrow.
Okay, so just to be clear, that first clip was who has the better chance of beating Patrick Mahomes and reaching the Super Bowl. And it was Lamar or Josh or Joe Burrow. And you heard him there at the end go on to say that he trusts Joe Burrow the most in the postseason. The second clip, same segment, similar topic, is will Lamar get to a Super Bowl?
Yeah, and real quick, just to respond to what he just said right there before you get to the DeAndre stuff and the impact he has with Lamar. Like, the favorites to win the Super Bowl, according to ESPN Bet, the Ravens are slightly above the Bills with the third best chance. So they have the Chiefs and Eagles tied at plus 600. Then it's the Ravens plus 650, and then it's the Bills plus 700. So, the kind of Vegas ESPN bet thing is giving the Ravens a slight advantage. But listen, if RC wants to choose Josh Allen, that's fine. I mean, he's saying, listen, I've seen Josh Allen play better in the postseason than Lamar. We've all talked about the context of Lamar in the playoffs. And at the end of the day, what separates these two quarterbacks are turnovers. And it's obviously the two quarterbacks, but it's also the team around them. And so RC is saying, you know what? I'm going to take Josh Allen. Fine. Go and take Josh Allen. But then it's this next part that it's like why he thinks he's not so sure that the Ravens are going to get over the hump and where DeAndre Hopkins gets that stray.
Greeny, I can't answer that question. It's the year that Lamar Jackson has to win the championship. There's no more pressure on any player in this entire league to perform in the playoffs than there is Lamar Jackson. It doesn't matter that you add DeAndre Hopkins. It doesn't matter that you go out and get Malachi Starks to be in the secondary in the first round. It's what does Lamar Jackson do in the most important moments. And what has happened is he's been the best player all season during the regular season and come up short in the playoffs. That can't happen if he wants to get a ring.
So I guess that's the question I want to pose to you. So what he's essentially saying here is that for Lamar Jackson, any of the offseason moves, whether it's the draft picks or it's DeAndre or it's Cheeto, who Mina called an X factor, he says it doesn't matter. So I guess that's my question to you. Does DeAndre Hopkins or any of the additions help Lamar's cause? Or does none of it matter and it's all just about how well Lamar plays? What do you think?
It can't hurt the cause, right? Like, I have a hard time saying it can hurt. Any of the additions can hurt the cause. Do I think that DeAndre is going to be? I don't think do you and I think he's going to be a needle moving acquisition for them? I don't know. I think needle moving is strong for me. Do I think he's going to be impactful in a small sample size? I could see that. I'd totally be open to that. I think that's kind of what we were just getting at.
Do you feel that way about all the offseason additions or just DeAndre?
Say that once more.
Do you think, because I think Ryan Clark's bigger point is, yes, it's DeAndre won't move the needle, but I think he's saying all offseason additions won't move the needle. It's all on Lamar. I guess I'm asking you, do you think that there's been any addition, whether through the draft or free agency, that is needle moving?
I wouldn't say needle moving. No, I think that they just needed to be done from a fulfilling your roster standpoint, from a depth standpoint, from a replacement standpoint of Cheeto with Brandon Stevens, right? You bring in, obviously the extensions were important for a Ronnie Stanley, first and foremost, to protect Lamar and that as that blindside franchise protector. We have great optimism about Mike Green, but he hasn't played a snap yet in the NFL. And so do I think that any one of their acquisitions was needle moving? No, I do not. Do I think that they were necessary? Yes. I think there's a difference between the two, though.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, I feel like there's almost two conversations here. Okay, so I lived live the 2012 season, okay? And when we think back, sometimes like certain narratives rise above the others. And for sure, Joe Flacco went on a historic playoff Super Bowl run. Like he played out of his mind. And at the same time as being a firsthand witness, including in the stadium, at the Super Bowl, at the Superdome in New Orleans, it's easy to forget how many of his teammates stepped up. Like when I tell you that Anquan Bolden played insane. Like, Bobby, there was like a third, I can't remember if it was 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 9, something like that. Or it might have been 4th and 7, something crazy in New Orleans. And Lamar, and they went ahead and went for it. And Joe Flacco threw up a prayer, and he put the prayer in the perfect spot. But if Anquan Bolden didn't go up and do an Anquan Bolden thing, the Super Bowl might have been lost. If Jacoby Jones, some people say, I would have given the MVP to Joe Flacco. I do not want this to be like a downplaying of Joe Flacco. I'm more trying to make a greater point that like quarterbacks need teammates to step up to. And so like Jacoby Jones was a pretty close second place for Super Bowl MVP with the way he had a return for a touchdown on special teams, and the way he went and grabbed an underthrown ball, got up off the ground, and like juked his way into the end zone. Dennis Pitta had some sweet catches in the end zone. Then the defense throughout 2012 was average. Go look it up. Go look up the stats. And it's because Ray Lewis was injured. Terrell Suggs was injured. There were just so many injuries. And then all of a sudden, these veterans just put everything on the line for 4 games. And then the defense finally started to step up. But the defense almost lost it. If Jimmy Smith didn't come in and play against Michael Crabtree. So my point is, I think that RC is almost saying, I don't care about anything except for Lamar playing well, which Lamar is the biggest, hugest factor. If he doesn't play well, they don't have a prayer. And so, yes, it's mostly on Lamar, but at the same time, can a DeAndre Hopkins give not as much as Anquan Bolden gave throughout the season, because I don't think he'll produce raw, huge numbers like that. But can DeAndre Hopkins go up and get a 50-50 ball on 4th and 7 the way Anquan Bolden did? Can Mark Andrews come down with and be as reliable as Pitta was for Joe Flacco during those playoffs? And so it's like, I don't know that DeAndre Hopkins will be an Anquan Bolden. I don't. But what I do know is somebody, whether it's a DeAndre Hopkins or a Cheeto or a Malachi Starks or a Mike Green or a Zay Flowers or an Isaiah Likely or something, somebody has to make outstanding plays the way Jacoby Jones did, the way Anquan Bolden did, the way all of these guys did. Somebody has to be outstanding with Lamar. And while Lamar hasn't been his MVP level in every single playoff game, he has been in a couple, and he's going to have to maintain that, but he's going to need somebody else to be outstanding in the playoffs with him, or else like it's just too much to put on one person's back in the playoffs. Maybe you can do that in the regular season, but you need outstanding play from his teammates also. I hope Hopkins can do it, or Zay can do it, or Isaiah. Somebody's got to do it with him now.
Evan left a comment a couple minutes ago, and he says, you can't tell me you think last year's version of Nelly is better than D-Hop, and I'm not telling you that.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that. I think DeAndre will be an upgrade over Nelson Aguilar as wide receiver 3. Nelly only had a couple hundred receiving yards last year. He was barely involved in their offense. He was not a focal point whatsoever, as most wide receiver 3s aren't. So that's not, I'm not arguing that whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
The question that you posed to me, I think you're kind of just gathering the way you're processing Ryan Clark's comments is, do I think that whether it's DeAndre Hopkins or collectively, the additions collectively this year, acquisition-wise, will they move the needle? And my answer is, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I also agree with what you're saying in a key pivotal moment, which is not how I'm understanding the question. In January, do I think that DeAndre could be needle moving in a small sample size when they need 4 yards?
Right.
Yes, I do. But throughout the full slate of games, do I expect DeAndre to be a needle-moving acquisition at this point in his career? No, I don't.
No, but in the context that RC is talking about it, and them is they're talking about it in a Super Bowl playoff context. And so, do you think in a playoff context he would be needle-moving?
If you want to call needle-moving, again, this small sample size example, of 3rd and 4, you got to have it.
Yeah.
And he's your 50-50 guy.
Yeah.
Then I suppose, but if you're defining this as a legendary postseason run, needle-moving acquisition, then I can't buy that for D-Hop at this point in his career.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Like, I think he could make 1 or 2 plays like you said? To me, I agree. I agree with you that I don't know that there was like there wasn't a Derrick Henry type signing this offseason, right? There wasn't that. That was needle moving. To me, there needs to be a needle mover. DeAndre Hopkins isn't at the top of the list of somebody who I'm saying needs to step up and play outstanding. I think Derrick Henry can, but the problem is if you get behind Derrick Henry can't be as big of a factor. So if you're behind in a game because of turnovers by 2 touchdowns, then Derrick Henry is less of a factor. And so then it becomes who else will become outstanding. I do think Derrick Henry is one. But to me, if we're talking about somebody that's going to step up and be outstanding with Lamar, I would take Isaiah Likely and Zay Flowers before I get to DeAndre Hopkins.
I would put Bateman ahead of Hopkins.
And maybe even Bateman, yeah.
And that's no
Yes.
disrespect to the guy.
Yeah.
I'm just going off of what I've seen in a postseason sample size here the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I would go Derek 1, Zay 2, Bateman 3, and then maybe actually I'd probably put Likely ahead of. Again, this isn't the slight DeAndre Hopkins. I think this is a good reminder, this exercise, right, of like tempering expectations in a sense for why they brought in DeAndre Hopkins. And the reasons that we listed earlier on in this segment is the reason we think they did. And so they don't need him to go. If he is a needle mover, great. I'm happy to be wrong. Very happy to be wrong, matter of fact. But I don't think that's why they brought him in, and I don't think they need him to be that. And I think there's several other options in front of him that are absolutely capable of being exactly that.
I do see the most likely scenario being one that I just described in that Joe Flacco run, where I named, like, think about it, the Jacoby Jones in Denver, right? And Torrey Smith in Denver. They were both phenomenal. And then Aquan Bolin stepped up in that Super Bowl game and then in other games. And Ray Rice and then Dennis Pitta. So I do see a scenario where it'd be like, if different guys can just step up in different moments the way they did for Joe Flacco that year, that works too. But I don't see DeAndre Hopkins as a, hey, you have Jamar Chase on your team, just go to Jamar Chase. You know what I mean? To me, it's more like who's having a game and who can do it in specific moments. And that's where I think DeAndre Hopkins in specific moments could be huge in the playoffs.
Could not agree anymore with that. And they have a plethora of guys that can answer the bell in those moments. Give us 5 different moments, right? Right now, in your mind, just think of 5 different pivotal moments out there in the audience for January 2026, right? It could be a comeback in the works. It could be you're trying to close things down and milk the clock. It could be whatever it is, field positioning, you name it. And they have 5 players outside of Lamar that you feel like can be called upon, and there's a darn good chance that question will be answered, that bell will be rung. And so what a luxury going into the postseason. Total luxury. They got to get there first. The expectation is that they'll be there, but what a total luxury to have.